Does the name Neopets take you back? That's exactly how we felt when we found out Neopets was going to be at Gamescom Asia. As folks who grew up grabbing omelette from Tyrannia, spinning the wheel of excitement in Faerieland, and playing way too much Meerca Chase, we knew we had to see what Neopets has been up to. And what better way to find out than to chat with Dominic Law, the CEO of Neopets himself. How is Neopets taking their legacy IP into the future? And what does Neopets offer? Not just to returning players, but new ones as well. Find out in just a second. This is the 20M Podcast. Welcome to the 20M Podcast, the show about video games and the people behind them. I'm your host for today, Reno, and today we're joined by a very special guest. Hello, Dominic.
Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for being here. So, in case no one knows, we've got Dominic Law, CEO of Neopets, a real blast from the past. I know we've got a lot of fans who are sort of around like this generation of gamers who grew up with Neopets, so we're really excited that we've got time to speak with you and get to know your thoughts about, I guess, where the direction is going for Neopets, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm always excited to talk more about Neopets.
So maybe you want to give the folks over at home watching like a bit of an overview, like a bit of an introduction to yourself. How long have you been with Neopets, and then what's it all about right now?
Yeah, definitely. So I've always been a player since when I was young. Neopets is one of the games I played a lot during my childhood. So it's actually the main game that I used to reconnect with my friends from Canada. When I first moved back to Hong Kong, I lost connection with them because back then we only have like a landline and IDD was expensive. So it's really hard to connect. But one summer when I go back to visit, my friend introduced me to this new game, Neopets. It's like, oh, and then I started immediately, got hooked. And then so I use Neopets a lot as like a kind of like a social media platform to connect with my friends there and experience the plots together. We joined guilds and we kind of like just experience like everything that's mythical in Neopia. So, but that's kind of like how I started on my personal journey with Neopets. But on the professional side, I joined the parent company of Neopets around a little bit more than 3 years ago. And that's when I started to help this parent company called NetDragon to more on the business side, how to revitalize their education tech business and also doing a kind of like a spin-off of this education tech business. Because part of the education tech business is education gaming, and one of the IPs they own is actually Neopets. And when I joined NetDragon, I knew that Neopets is one of the domains I might be able to kind of like have more interaction with or kind of help them drive a little bit more on the strategy or business side. So eventually I did lead a side project for Neopets to experience how we can modernize it, how we can revive it. And it's during that kind of like a restructuring process, we saw that there's a lot of value and there's a lot of like things that we could do to revive the Neopets IP, and I get to work a lot more closely with the Neopets team that's still mostly in US and in Canada, and I also get to connect with the community a lot more during those time. And that's when I realized that we need to bring this back. There's like the communities are still here, they're very tight-knit, and they all still have like so much love for Neopets, and we believe that it will be a shame if we kind of don't do something that really revive this IP. So I took kind of like a long good few months to negotiate with our senior management at NetDragon, also kind of like proposing a business plan to show that we have a plan ahead, that we can revive this IP and bring it further. And I'm glad where we're at now. And finally in July, earlier this year in July, we officially took over and spun off Neopets from NetDragon. Now we can say we're free of a corporate baggage, and we can drive a lot more innovation and be very agile and kind of like really bring Neopets back. And so I'm really excited that I'm embarking on this journey. We're calling it internally as like a Neopets Renaissance. So we also welcome the community to come join us. We'd love to build with you, and we'd love to build with like everyone who loves Neopets.
I really like what you said earlier about, it was kind of like the OG social media. There was no Facebook back then. There was no, at least to my knowledge, there's no like Friendster or MySpace. And for me, it was the same. I had cousins in Australia, and they told me about Neopets, and that became the way we connected. Before we would just send like emails, but this was like a way more interactive thing. They would send me gifts, I was terrible at Neopets, so they were very kind to give me some good stuff. So yeah, it was a really great way to connect people, I think, back then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's ICQ back then. There's definitely no MySpace or Facebook or any of those shows. Yeah, so it's fun.
I guess, like, could you tell us, as a gamer yourself, like, what was some of your fondest memories in Neopets? Because for me, like I said, it was great for me to connect with my cousins, and I also just remember being, like, a really poor Neopet gamer, and I would just, like, hang out at, like, the donation tree and just, like, refresh all the time, waiting for someone to give me something good.
Yeah, I mean, I do that all the time, too. I'm not a rich Neopian. I've never been, like, really good at, like, collecting stuff or buy low, sell high type, but I always go to the money tree to get donation. I like to haggle inside the game.
God, yeah. You could have your shop, right? And then you could like put set pricing and then like get people to buy your stuff and then haggle as well.
Yeah, you can haggle with all the shop owners and also with the in-game NPC shop owners as well. But I play a lot of the mini games. Battle Dome, I play a bit of it, but mostly really more for the social side. Because when I started playing, I'm already in middle school, so I'm not like I don't really have all the time that I want to spend. Because like being an Asian kid, we also have to study a lot. So I don't really get that much time to really play, especially when I have to share my computer with my sisters, and they probably get more time shared than I do.
30 minutes today.
Exactly.
Back to math.
But running my dailies and trying to get the most out of it.
It is very interesting because Neopets has such a, you can play it however you want it, right? Like you can focus on the pets, you can get all the brushes and make them really cute. You can be a battle domer, you can play like all the other different types of mini games. It had such versatility. You could meet different types of Neopians, right? In the game.
Yeah, it's definitely a very intricate, I would say, first generation kind of like mini MMORPG back in the days, browser based. Although it's click based, but there's actually a very vast like kind of like universe. Well, now we call it Neopia. That actually has all these different gameplays that you can choose. So I think it really embraced creativity and embraced like diversity, and people choose their own adventure and play it however they want. But I think at its core, it's still the kind of like companionship, either from the Neopets or your fellow Neopians, and being all together and experience the game together.
Maybe you can tell our fans back home a bit more about your plans to modernize Neopets. Like because the Neopets as it exists right now is still there, the OG, the one that we all know and love, but what's coming next?
Yeah, so I think there's two parts to that. So one, we're definitely going to do a lot more to upgrade our infrastructures to make the original Neopets.com. We're probably calling it like Neopets Classic to make it easier. So we want to make it a lot more enjoyable for lapsed users to come back and really have that nostalgic feel and kind of like the being able to see the look and feel of Neopets since like 10, 20 years ago. That would be a big part to make it easier for lapsed users to come back. We are suffering from a lot of like performance issue, kind of like buggy website, a lot of kind of like infrastructure needs to be updated, being a 24-year-old. So we're doing a lot of that to make kind of like the quality of life for existing gamers and also like returning gamers kind of like can enjoy the game a lot more. But the newer game experiences that we're also building would be a lot more kind of like geared towards like a modernized gameplay. So for example, we're bringing out like new mobile apps, like games out there that will be Neopets related. So two of them are more like side games. One of them is like a match 3 game called Fairy's Hope, and the other one is like a town building game called Island Builders. So those have been in development for the past like 2 years, and Fairy's Hope we already launched it, but we haven't marketed heavily. For Island Builders, we actually we are relaunching it by first quarter next year, introducing new gameplays, fixing some of the game balances. We're going through a public beta phase now, and we're getting a lot of good feedback, so hopefully that would be exciting. But the new flagship game, we're calling it the World of Neopets. I think that would have a lot more resemblance of the gameplay that we've experienced back in Neopets.com, but with a more like 3D world map, kind of like a first person. Well, you can explore the open world of the world of Neopia. And so it would be a lot more immersive, and kind of all our returning users and new users can experience Neopets in a whole new way that we only could imagine back then. But the core gameplay would still be kind of interacting with your pets. We're bringing back the Neo Home feature. It will be drawing a lot of inspiration from games like Animal Crossing. As for the mini games, we'll make it a lot more social based and interactive. So it will be the aspiration is to build more kind of like multiplayer mini games, still focus on the casual and hyper casual segment, but it's more about playing together with your friends. So I would say it would be maybe like similar to games that we see in Mario Party, for example. So those are kind of like the modernized gameplay that we're bringing back. But as a small game studio, we'll probably not be able to compete with like the AAA games out there. but I'm sure the plots and the creativity that we can embrace will be still kind of like the core of our DNA.
One thing I did want to bring up was because I read your interview in Vanity Fair,
Mm-hmm.
which is like really incredible to begin with. Like Neopets in Vanity Fair, I was like, wow, that's super interesting. I think that is it's a statement about how not mainstream, but I guess like how common Neopets is and how a lot of people relate to that. But like the thing you mentioned it was like you were like, oh, of course it's a brand that people remember, and we just talked about all the fun memories and all the community that's stuck around. But what is your plan to attract the next generation of gamers, or like the younger audience that didn't grow up with Cheek right here?
Yeah. So I think that's what the new game experiences are for. We want to kind of like introduce Neopets to the next generation of gamers as well. But we know that with the old game, like the classic Neopets.com game, it will probably be not that appealing to new users who have been experienced and exposed to all other games out there. So we definitely need something that's more modernized in order to be able to attract the next generation of users. But I think that also the other part of it is the original game was still making sure that it's the core of our IP, because it's kind of like a living relic. And we've been able to preserve the early kind of like internet gaming culture in its purest form, and I think it will be astonishing. It'll be interesting for younger gamers to at least get to experience that when they want. I don't think they will be sticky, or they will be like spending hours of their time in that game. But it'll still be exciting if they can experience a new game, spend more time there, but occasionally come back to this historical relic to kind of like understand a piece of gaming culture, a piece of gaming history that they probably can't get anywhere else.
Absolutely. I think there is a problem, or not so much a problem, but people are talking about how the legacy parts of gaming are not being preserved. A lot of consoles are phasing out various games, and then soon they'll not be accessible anymore. So it's really amazing to hear that you're keeping that part of history. It's really, really important.
Yeah, I think it's a silver lining that we didn't involve for the past 10 years into mobile or anything. It's and then we didn't really do anything to upgrade the company. But I think that's the silver lining there. We've been able to preserve that. And the beauty of being a browser-based game is, as long as the internet survives, it will be there.
My last question, I guess, I really want to reference the amazing talk you did for Gamescom Asia yesterday about IP and other avenues, because you talked about people or brands like Mario and how they've sort of diversified. They're not just about games anymore, and the value of merchandise. So maybe you can talk a bit more about Neopets aside from Neopets the game. What are other ways they're tackling?
Yeah, actually, I think that's a great answer to respond to your earlier question about how we can attract new gamers and also our returning gamers. So a big part of that strategy is actually our merchandising strategy. We're actually in the talks of launching a lot of new merch, and we're signing up a lot of new licensees. And that part of the business is actually where we can see that Neopets can become a lot more than just a gaming IP and become a more mainstream entertainment IP. And if that was being successful, that also helped us to attract a lot of our Labs users to come back and interact with us. They might not have to play the game, but they definitely remember their childhood favorite, their Kachik, their Shoru, and having a different way to experience Neopets, even though they might not be a gamer anymore. So that would be a way to attract a lot of our Labs users. I mean, our peak of close to 150 million users, and also that could be also a way for us to introduce Neopets to the next generation of users, or even users who grown up with us but never played Neopets. So yeah, that would be exciting to see.
I think we saw that just now at the booth earlier before this interview, where this fan came up to you and was like, "Oh, where's more merch?" And you said, "Oh, shipping." And she's like, "No, on the website. Where's more merch?" It's like clearly there's a demand, there's an interest for more Neopets fans, hats, whatever it happens. Right?
Yeah, we get asked that a lot, and one of the near-term strategies to kind of revamp the merch site that we have on our site. So stay tuned. We'll definitely have more merch for everyone.
Get your wallets ready, everybody. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Really, really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me here, and it's good to see everyone.
Thank you so much for your time. See you next episode.